Listen to me very carefully. What I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about faith, about truth, about what's really happening in this world right now. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to promote anything. I'm here because I have to tell you something that's been eating at me for months. If you love Jesus, if you truly believe in what he taught, then you need to hear this. Because what I discovered recently has shaken me to my core. And I've seen some incredible things in my life, but nothing prepared me for this. 3 months ago, I was having a conversation with someone I can't name, someone who works in places most people don't even know exist. We were talking about consciousness, about the nature of reality, about what makes us human. And then he said something that stopped me cold. He said, "You know, the ancient texts weren't just stories, they were instructions. And we're about to find out what happens when we ignore those instructions." I laughed at first. I thought he was being dramatic. But then he showed me something, a document, a real document, with real data. And suddenly, I wasn't laughing anymore. You see, there's something happening right now that connects directly to what Jesus taught about love, about treating others as you want to be treated, about the golden rule. But we're moving in the opposite direction, fast. The technology we're creating, the systems we're building, the decisions we're making as a species, they're all leading us away from those teachings. And the people who understand this, the people who have the power to change it, they're not talking about it publicly. But I am, because I have to. Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Simple words. But what happens when your neighbor isn't human? What happens when the line between human and artificial becomes so blurred that we can't tell the difference anymore? That's not science fiction. That's next year, maybe sooner. And here's what's keeping me up at night. The people building these systems, they don't care about Jesus' teachings. They don't care about love. They don't care about treating others with respect and dignity. They care about power. They care about control. They care about reshaping humanity in their own image. But Jesus warned us about this. He told us exactly what would happen when people put themselves above God, when they try to play God themselves. And we're watching it happen in real time. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is about artificial intelligence, about robots, about technology taking over. But it's deeper than that. It's about the human soul. It's about what makes us who we are. It's about whether we're going to hold on to the values that Jesus taught us, or whether we're going to trade them away for convenience, for comfort, for the promise of a better life. And the clock is ticking, faster than you think. The person I was talking to, he told me something else. He said, "The decision has already been made at the highest levels. The only question now is whether enough people will wake up before it's too late." That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you this. Because if you love Jesus, if you believe in what he stood for, then you need to know what's coming. You need to understand what's at stake. This isn't about politics. This isn't about left or right. This is about right and wrong. This is about good and evil. This is about whether we're going to remain human or whether we're going to become something else entirely. And once that transformation begins, there's no going back. Let me tell you exactly what I found. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't theory, it's not speculation, it's fact. And it's happening right now in laboratories and boardrooms around the world. There's a project, I can't tell you exactly where it's based, but it's being funded by some of the most powerful people on earth, people who have more money than most countries, people who believe they can improve on God's design. They're working on something they call human optimization. Sounds innocent enough, right? Who doesn't want to be optimized? Who doesn't want to be better, faster, stronger, smarter? But here's what they're really doing. They're trying to remove what they call inefficiencies from human behavior. And guess what they consider inefficient? Love, compassion, sacrifice, faith, everything Jesus taught us about how to live. They call these things evolutionary baggage. They say we've evolved past the need for these emotions, these values. They say we'd be better off without them. I saw the research. I saw the data. They've been studying brain patterns, mapping neural networks, identifying the exact areas of the brain that light up when people feel love, when they feel compassion, when they feel connected to something bigger than themselves. And They're figuring out how to turn those areas off. They call it rational enhancement. They say they're creating a new kind of human being, one that makes decisions based purely on logic, on efficiency, on what produces the best outcomes for the greatest number of people. But Jesus didn't teach us to be logical. He taught us to be loving. He taught us to sacrifice for others, even when it doesn't make sense. He taught us that sometimes the right thing to do is the hard thing, the inefficient thing, the thing that costs us something. These people, they think they're creating heaven on earth, a world without conflict, without suffering, without pain, but they're actually creating hell, a world without love, without soul, without everything that makes us human. And here's the terrifying part. They're not just planning to do this to volunteers. They're planning to do this to everyone. Through the food supply, through the water supply, through the air we breathe. They call it global optimization. I know how this sounds. I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory, like something out of a movie, but I've seen the documents. I've talked to the scientists. I've met the investors. This is real. This is happening. And most people have no idea. The person who showed me all this, he used to work for them. He helped design some of their early systems. But then he had what he called a moment of clarity. He realized what they were really trying to do. He said, I thought we were making people better, but we were actually making them into something that isn't people at all. So he left. He took some documents with him, and now he's trying to warn anyone who will listen. But here's the problem. Most people don't want to listen. They don't want to believe that something this big, this coordinated, this evil could be happening right under their noses. They want to believe that the world is basically good, that powerful people have everyone's best interests at heart, that technology is always progress. But Jesus warned us about this too. He said there would be false prophets, people who would come promising to make our lives better, but who would actually lead us away from God. He said, beware of wolves in sheep's clothing. That's what we're dealing with here. Wolves in sheep's clothing. People who talk about making the world better, but who are actually trying to destroy everything good about humanity. And the most terrifying part? They're succeeding. You want to know how much time we have? You want to know when this is all going to happen? The answer is going to shock you. It's already started. The early phases began 2 years ago. Small-scale testing, controlled environments, volunteer subjects who thought they were participating in wellness programs, in cognitive enhancement studies, in treatments for depression and anxiety. But those weren't medical trials. Those were proof-of-concept experiments. They were testing whether their technology actually works, whether they can actually change human behavior, human emotions, human souls. And it does work. It works better than they expected. I met one of the test subjects, a woman named Sarah. She contacted me through a secure channel after she figured out what had happened to her. She told me her story, and it's something that will haunt me for the rest of my life. Sarah had been struggling with depression. She saw an advertisement for a new treatment, something called neurological rebalancing. It promised to eliminate negative emotions, to help people find lasting happiness and peace. She signed up, she went through the treatment, and it worked. Her depression disappeared, her anxiety vanished. She felt calm, peaceful, focused. But something else disappeared too. Her love for her children, her connection to her husband, her faith in God, her ability to cry during movies, to feel moved by music, to experience wonder when she looked at a sunset. She became what they wanted her to become: rational, efficient, optimized. But she wasn't human anymore, not in any way that mattered. She told me, I can logically understand that I should love my children. I can recognize that they need care and attention, but I can't feel it anymore. It's like that part of me just died. That's when I realized what we're really dealing with here. They're not just changing how people think, they're changing who people are. They're removing the very essence of what makes us human. And Sarah is just one person. There are thousands of others, maybe tens of thousands, all walking around, looking normal, acting normal, but missing something essential, missing their souls. The woman who showed me the documents, she told me about the timeline. Phase 1 was the testing phase. That's complete. Phase 2 is targeted deployment. That's happening now. They're focusing on specific groups, people in positions of influence, teachers, doctors, politicians, journalists, people who can help spread their message, who can convince others that this is a good thing. But phase 3 is the big one. That's when they go global, when they start putting their technology into everything, into the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe. They call it atmospheric deployment. They figured out how to create microscopic particles that can carry their neural modification technology. Particles so small you can't see them, can't taste them, can't smell them. And those particles are designed to cross the blood-brain barrier, to get into your brain and start making changes without you even knowing it. The timeline for phase 3, 18 months, maybe less. That's how long we have before they start changing everyone, before they start turning the entire human race into something else. And here's what's really terrifying. Once it starts, it's irreversible. The changes they make to your brain, to your soul, they're permanent. There's no going back. Jesus said, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul?" That's exactly what's happening here. They're promising us a better world, a world without pain, without suffering, without conflict. But the price is our souls. The price is everything that makes us human. And most people don't even realize they're being asked to pay it. But here's something they didn't count on. There are people fighting back, people who understand what's at stake, people who refuse to let humanity be transformed into something soulless and cold. They call themselves the Underground. It's not an official organization. It's not a political movement. It's a loose network of scientists, doctors, engineers, and ordinary people who have discovered what's happening and decided to do something about it. Some of them used to work for the people behind this project. Others discovered it accidentally. A few were test subjects who managed to reverse some of the effects. But they all have one thing in common. They believe that human beings are created in God's image and that no one has the right to change that. I've been in contact with them for weeks now. They've shown me things that would make your blood run cold. Documents, recordings, video footage of what's really happening in those secret laboratories. But they've also shown me something else, something that gives me hope. They've figured out how to protect people, how to create a kind of shield that prevents the neuromodification technology from working. It's not perfect, and it's not easy, but it's possible. The key is something they call spiritual resilience. It turns out that people who have strong faith, who regularly practice prayer or meditation, who maintain deep connections with other people, are naturally more resistant to the technology. It's like Jesus knew this would happen. Like he gave us the tools we would need to fight back 2,000 years before the threat even existed. The Underground has been working on ways to strengthen this natural resistance. They've developed techniques, practices, even certain foods and supplements that can help protect your brain from modification. But here's the thing. It only works if you start before you're exposed. Once the technology gets into your system, once it starts making changes, it's much harder to fight back. That's why I'm telling you this now. That's why I'm breaking my silence. Because time is running out and people need to know how to protect themselves. The leader of the Underground, a woman I can only call Dr. K, she used to be one of the lead scientists on the project. She told me something that's been echoing in my mind ever since. She said, they think they're creating paradise, but they're actually creating hell. A world where no one can love, where no one can sacrifice, where no one can connect with God. And once they flip that switch, once they deploy phase 3, there's no going back. But she also told me something else, something that gave me hope. She said, there are more of us than they think, people who understand what's at stake, people who are willing to fight for the human soul. And if we can reach enough people, if we can wake up enough people before it's too late, we might actually have a chance. That's what this is about. That's why I'm here, talking to you right now, because you might be one of those people. You might be someone who can help save humanity from losing its soul. But first, you need to understand exactly what they're planning You need to know how deep this goes, how many people are involved, how much money is behind it. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to change everything you think you know about the world we live in. The scope of this operation is bigger than anything I've ever seen. We're talking about a network of organizations, corporations, and government agencies that spans the entire globe. And they're all working together toward the same goal: the complete transformation of human consciousness. At the top of this network are 12 individuals. I can't tell you their names, but I can tell you that you've heard of them. They're some of the wealthiest, most powerful people on earth. People who control major technology companies, pharmaceutical corporations, media empires, and financial institutions. They meet regularly, not at fancy conferences or public events, but in secret locations, private islands, remote mountain compounds, underground facilities that don't officially exist. They call themselves the Collective, and they believe they're saving humanity from itself. Their reasoning is simple, and in a twisted way it makes sense. They look at the world and see war, poverty, suffering, inequality. They see people making irrational decisions based on emotions, on faith, on love. They see humanity destroying itself through conflict and competition. And they've decided that the only way to save us is to change us, to remove the parts of human nature that cause problems, to create a new kind of human being that's rational, efficient, and peaceful. But here's what they don't understand. Those problems they want to eliminate aren't bugs in the human system. They're features. They're what make us human. They're what allow us to connect with God, to love unconditionally, to sacrifice for others. Jesus himself was irrational by their standards. He gave up everything for people who rejected him. He suffered and died for people who didn't deserve it. He taught us to turn the other cheek, to love our enemies, to give without expecting anything in return. None of that makes sense from a purely logical perspective, but it's what makes us human. It's what makes us capable of connecting with something bigger than ourselves. The Collective has been planning this for decades. They've been placing their people in key positions throughout government, academia, and industry. They've been funding research, developing technology, creating the infrastructure they need to implement their vision. And they've been very careful to keep it secret. They know that if people understood what they're really planning, there would be massive resistance. So they've disguised their true intentions behind seemingly benevolent goals. They talk about enhancing human potential. They talk about eliminating mental illness. They talk about creating a more peaceful world. But what they're really talking about is turning human beings into biological machines, creatures that look like people, talk like people, but don't feel like people, don't love like people, don't connect with God like people. Dr. K showed me their internal documents, their real plans, and it's worse than I initially thought. They're not just planning to change how people think, they're planning to change how people reproduce. They want to create a new generation of human beings who are born without the capacity for faith, for love, for spiritual connection. They call it evolutionary acceleration. They say they're helping humanity take the next step in its development. But Jesus warned us about this. He said, unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. That's exactly what's happening here. They're shortening the days of true humanity. They're trying to end the human race as God created it and replace it with something else entirely. And the most terrifying part? They're very close to succeeding. The technology is ready. The distribution system is in place. The timeline is set. But there's one thing they didn't count on, one thing that's been giving me hope even in the darkest moments of this discovery. They underestimated the power of faith. They underestimated the power of love. They underestimated the power of people who are willing to fight for their souls. And they underestimated the power of truth. Right now, as I'm talking to you, there are people all over the world who are waking up to what's happening. People who are discovering the truth about the Collective, about their plans, about what's really at stake. Some of them are scientists who've been working on pieces of the project without understanding the bigger picture. Others are government officials who've stumbled across classified documents. A few are journalists who've been investigating strange patterns in funding and research. But most of them are ordinary people, people like you, people who love their families, who believe in something bigger than themselves, who understand that some things are more important than efficiency and optimization, and they're all facing the same choice that I'm asking you to make right now. You can pretend this isn't happening. You can tell yourself that this is all just a conspiracy theory, that people wouldn't really do something this evil, that someone else will stop it if it's real. Or you can accept that this is real, that it's happening right now, and that you have a role to play in stopping it. Because here's the thing, they can't succeed without our cooperation. They can't transform humanity without our consent. They need us to accept their vision, to believe their lies, to willingly give up our souls. And the only way they can get that cooperation is if we don't know what's really happening. If we stay asleep, stay distracted, stay focused on our day-to-day lives while they work behind the scenes to change everything. But once you know the truth, once you understand what's at stake, you can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend you don't know. You have to make a choice. Dr. K told me something that's been echoing in my mind for weeks. She said, the most dangerous weapon they have isn't their technology, it's our apathy. Our willingness to let someone else make the big decisions, our belief that we can't make a difference, but we can make a difference. Each one of us, every single person who wakes up to what's happening, who decides to resist, who chooses to fight for their soul and the souls of their children, the underground has been developing a network of safe houses, secure communication systems, and protection protocols. They've been stockpiling the supplements and treatments that can help protect people from neuromodification. They've been identifying and training people who can help spread the word. But they need more people, they need more resources, they need more time, and most importantly, they need more people who are willing to make the choice, who are willing to say, I will not let you change what God made me to be. Jesus said, choose this day whom you will serve. That's exactly what's happening here. We're being asked to choose between the vision of the collective and the vision of Christ, between efficiency and love, between optimization and soul, between being human and being something else entirely. The choice is yours. But you need to make it soon, because time is running out, and once Phase 3 begins, once they start atmospheric deployment, the choice might be made for you. I know what I've chosen. I've chosen to fight. I've chosen to resist. I've chosen to use whatever influence I have, whatever resources I have, whatever voice I have, to warn people about what's coming. Because I love Jesus, because I believe in what he taught us, because I believe that human beings are created in God's image, and that no one has the right to change that. And if you love Jesus too, if you believe in what he taught us, then you need to make the same choice. I'm going to leave you with this final thought, this final warning, this final plea. Everything I've told you is true. Every word, every detail, every horrifying possibility. The collective is real, their technology is real, their plans are real, and their timeline is real. In 18 months, maybe less, they're going to begin atmospheric deployment. They're going to start putting their neural modification technology into the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. And once that happens, once they flip that switch, there's no going back, no reversal, no second chances. You will still look like yourself. You will still sound like yourself. You will still have your memories, your knowledge, your skills, but you won't be yourself. Not really. Not in any way that matters. You won't love the way you love now. You won't feel the way you feel now. You won't connect with God the way you connect with God now. You'll become what they want you to become: rational, efficient, optimized, empty. And the worst part? You won't even know what you've lost. You won't remember what it felt like to love unconditionally, to sacrifice for others, to feel the presence of God in your life. You'll think you're fine. You'll think you're better. You'll think you're exactly who you're supposed to be. But you won't be human anymore, not in any way that Jesus would recognize. That's what's at stake here. That's what we're fighting for. The right to remain human, the right to keep our souls, the right to love and be loved in return. I've told you about the underground. I've told you about the resistance. I've told you about the ways to protect yourself. But ultimately, it comes down to this. Do you believe that human beings are created in God's image? Do you believe that love, compassion, and faith are what make us who we are? Do you believe that some things are more important than efficiency and optimization? If you do, then you need to act. Now, today, before it's too late. Find the underground. Learn how to protect yourself and your family. Spread the word to everyone you know. Wake up as many people as you can. Because humanity's future depends on it. Your soul depends on it. Your children's souls depend on it. Jesus said, "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." That's what I'm asking you to do. Not to literally lay down your life, but to lay down your comfort, your convenience, your willingness to let someone else handle the big problems. I'm asking you to fight, to resist, to choose love over efficiency, soul over optimization, humanity over their twisted vision of what we should become. The clock is ticking. The choice is yours. But whatever you decide, decide quickly. Because time is running out, and the future of the human race hangs in the balance. If you love Jesus, if you believe in what he taught us, then you know what you have to do. The question is, will you do it? Will you fight for your soul? Will you fight for humanity? Will you choose love? The time for choosing is now.